Ladies and gentlemen, when you step away from the noise, from the crowd, from the constant chatter of opinions, something begins to happen inside you. At first, it's uncomfortable. You feel the absence of familiar voices, the lack of reassurance, the emptiness where other people's approval used to be. You might even start to question yourself, wondering if you made a mistake by stepping away. But it's in that space, in that raw silence, where the truth begins to rise to the surface. You start to hear the sound of your own breath, the rhythm of your own thoughts, the beat of your own heart. You realize those things have been there all along, but you were too distracted to notice. Alone, there's no one to lean on, no one to blame, no one to hide behind. It's just you, face to face with who you really are. That's where strength is forged, not in the comfort of the crowd, but in the stillness of solitude. In the crowd, you can pretend to be strong because the energy of others carries you. In solitude, there's no one to carry you. You either stand on your own or you fall, and when you fall, you have two choices: stay down and hope someone comes to pick you up, or rise on your own legs even if they're trembling. Every time you choose to rise, you're adding steel to your spine, fire to your spirit. You're proving to yourself that you can endure, you can persist, you can move forward even when no one is watching, no one is clapping, no one is telling you good job. It's in these moments that your identity starts to form in a deeper way. Alone, you start to strip away everything that was borrowed. The beliefs you adopted because someone else told you they were true. The dreams you chased because someone else said they were worth chasing. The habits you kept because they were convenient. Without the influence of others pressing against you, you get to see what's actually yours. You get to decide what stays and what goes, and sometimes that's the hardest part, because you realize how much of your life has been shaped by expectations instead of convictions. But in that recognition lies your greatest opportunity to rebuild from the foundation up, to make choices that reflect your own truth instead of someone else's version of it. Strength in solitude doesn't just come from surviving the quiet, it comes from embracing it. The quiet is not empty, it's full. It's full of clarity, of reflection, of the chance to recalibrate. It gives you the room to examine your weaknesses without shame, to study your failures without fear, to acknowledge your pain without running from it. You begin to see that your scars aren't something to hide. They're proof that you've endured battles and kept going. You see that your limitations aren't permanent walls, but temporary obstacles waiting to be climbed. You begin to trust yourself, not because someone told you to, but because you've witnessed your own resilience firsthand. When you walk alone, you learn to depend on the only constant you truly have, yourself. You begin to recognize your own patterns, your own triggers, your own strengths. You see what breaks you and what builds you. You start to develop the discipline to push forward without anyone pushing you, the patience to wait without anyone assuring you it's worth it, and the courage to move even when fear is loud in your ear. This is where real growth happens, not in the applause, but in the absence of it. Not in the light of the stage, but in the shadows where no one's looking. You discover that solitude is not loneliness. It's leadership of the self. It's the process of becoming your own motivator, your own critic, your own protector. You learn how to encourage yourself when doubt tries to settle in, how to hold yourself accountable when discipline begins to slip, how to comfort yourself when pain feels unbearable. You stop waiting for someone to save you, because you realize you've been holding the rope the whole time. And when you finally see that, when you finally understand that the power to keep going was always inside you, there's a shift. You stop fearing solitude, you start seeking it, because you know that every time you step away from the crowd, you're not losing strength, you're gaining it. Silence has a way of stripping away all the unnecessary weight you've been carrying. When you're constantly surrounded by noise, people's opinions, the endless hum of distraction, the pull of 1,000 different voices, you start to lose track of your own sound. Your voice becomes faint, buried under the volume of everything else. But when you step into silence, it's like the world turns down its volume, and for the first time in a long time, you can hear yourself clearly. That voice you hear is unfiltered, unpolished, and maybe even unfamiliar. It's the voice that's been trying to speak to you all along, but it was drowned out by the world's demands. In the silence, it grows stronger, not because the words change, but because you're finally listening. There is power in learning to be still. Stillness doesn't mean weakness, it means focus. It's the pause before the strike, the breath before the leap, the gathering of energy before the next move. In silence, you start to notice the small things. How your mind wanders, how your heart reacts, how your thoughts evolve when there's no one else steering them. You begin to see patterns, connections, and truths that were invisible in the rush. And slowly, that awareness shapes the way you speak, the way you act, the way you stand in front of the world. Silence becomes a sharpening tool, cutting away the dullness until your voice is sharp, precise, and impossible to ignore. In the quiet, you're not performing for anyone. You're not adjusting your words to be liked, to be accepted, to fit in. You speak only when you have something to say, and that changes everything. You learn the value of each word. You understand that not every moment needs to be filled with sound, and that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is hold your peace until it's time to release it. That discipline turns your voice into a force, not a noise competing with other noises, but a sound that cuts through, demands attention, and carries weight. When you finally speak after a season of silence, people listen, not because you're loud, but because you're deliberate. Silence is also where you face your truth without interference. In the crowd, it's easy to convince yourself you're fine because the laughter and conversation distract you from the ache inside. But when it's quiet, there's nowhere to run from the questions that keep showing up. You have to answer them. You have to confront the parts of yourself that you've been avoiding. It's uncomfortable, but it's necessary. Because when you finally acknowledge your fears, your regrets, and your mistakes, they lose some of their power over you. And when you start to understand who you are in your most honest moments, your voice begins to reflect that truth. It becomes more authentic, more grounded, more rooted in who you actually are instead of who you've been pretending to be. This is why the voice you find in silence is different from the one you use in the noise. In silence, your voice is trained by patience. It's refined by reflection. It's strengthened by the absence of immediate validation. There's no audience to cheer for you, no one to agree or disagree, no one to tell you that you're right or wrong. You become your own witness. You become your own judge of when the moment is right to speak, and when it's better to keep building your strength in the quiet. That kind of self-control changes the way you move through the world. You stop chasing moments to speak just to be heard, and you start choosing moments to speak so you can be understood. The silence also teaches you how to handle opposition. When you've learned to hear your own voice clearly, the voices that try to tear you down don't carry the same weight. Criticism doesn't echo as loudly. Doubt doesn't settle in as easily. You've spent time in the quiet, hearing yourself through every storm, every fear, every low point, and that familiarity makes you unshakable. You trust your voice because you've heard it in the worst conditions and it still spoke truth. That trust is what makes you able to stand in front of others with confidence, without needing their approval to validate your words. Discomfort is the place most people try to escape from. The moment things get hard, the moment the pressure starts to rise, the instinct is to pull back to somewhere safe, somewhere familiar. But what most don't realize is that the very place they're trying to avoid is the place where their strength is born. Discomfort strips away the illusions of control and forces you to meet yourself as you truly are. It removes the safety nets and challenges you to find a way forward when nothing feels certain. It's in that unfamiliar space where you can't predict the outcome, where you can't rely on routine, that your mind and spirit are pushed to grow in ways they never could in comfort. When you're comfortable, you can coast. You can keep moving without truly challenging yourself. But in discomfort, you're confronted with situations that demand more from you. More focus, more patience, more resilience. It's like a weightlifter adding more plates to the bar. The muscles don't grow when the weight is easy. They grow when the weight feels almost impossible to lift. Your spirit is no different. Every challenge you face that makes you uneasy is placing that extra weight on you. And every time you push through, you get stronger, even if you can't see it immediately. The pain and strain of the moment are not there to destroy you, but to break apart the weak parts of you so that the stronger parts can emerge. Discomfort also reveals truths that comfort hides. When everything is easy, it's simple to believe you have it all together. But the moment life tests you, when plans fail, when people let you down, when the road becomes rough, you start to see what you're really made of. Discomfort shows you your limits, but it also shows you that those limits can be stretched. It forces you to dig deeper than you thought you could, to endure longer than you thought possible. And in that process, you discover a resilience you might have never found if you had stayed where things felt safe. It's in discomfort that creativity often comes alive. When resources are limited, when the usual paths are blocked, you have no choice but to think differently. You start to see possibilities that weren't visible when you were surrounded by ease. Pressure has a way of unlocking hidden potential, of forcing you to adapt in ways that change you permanently. The discomfort you feel in those moments is actually the heat that forges something new inside you. Diamonds are created under pressure, and so are the strongest versions of ourselves. Discomfort also demands patience. When you're in a season of strain, you can't always move as quickly as you want to. Sometimes all you can do is keep standing, keep holding on, keep taking one step at a time. It's frustrating, but it teaches you endurance. It teaches you to value progress over perfection, to trust the process even when you can't yet see the result. Those who run from discomfort never develop that kind of endurance, and without endurance, strength is temporary. True strength is the kind that can stand the test of time, the kind that doesn't crumble the moment the conditions change. And perhaps one of the most powerful lessons discomfort teaches is humility. When you're in a situation that stretches you to your limit, you're reminded that you don't have all the answers, that you're not invincible, that life is bigger than you. That humility isn't there to make you small. It's there to make you grounded. It keeps you teachable, willing to learn, willing to adapt. And that openness is what allows you to grow into someone far stronger than you were before. Discomfort strips away the false confidence that comes from comfort and replaces it with a deep, unshakable confidence that comes from knowing you can endure whatever comes next. If you'd like, I can now expand keynote no. For, in the same way, so your speech feels complete in tone and flow. Standing alone is the kind of training that most people don't sign up for willingly. It's easier to move when you've got a team beside you, when there are voices pushing you forward, when there's someone to lean on when you feel weak. But when you are alone, the weight shifts entirely onto your shoulders. Every step forward is a choice you make without anyone else nudging you. Every setback is yours to navigate without a safety net. This is where the real training happens, not in the easy coordination of a group, but in the quiet responsibility of carrying yourself without help. In those moments, you learn to lead yourself first, and that's the foundation for ever leading anyone else. When you're alone, you become your own motivator. There's no one to tell you to get up when you fall, no one to remind you why you started, no one to hold you accountable except you. That means you have to learn how to keep yourself moving even when it feels like there's no progress, even when you're tired, even when the doubts start whispering in your ear. That process shapes you in ways that nothing else can. It forces you to develop discipline. Not the kind that shows up when someone's watching, but the kind that holds firm when no one sees and no one will ever know. Being alone also forces you to make decisions without the comfort of consensus. In a group, decisions can be diluted by shared responsibility. If it fails, the blame is spread around. Alone, there's nowhere to hide. Every choice is yours, and every outcome rests on your ability to own it. That kind of accountability sharpens your instincts. You start to think more deeply, weigh risks more carefully, and trust your judgment more fully. You stop making moves just to keep up with others and start making moves that align with your vision, your values, and your goals. Leading yourself in solitude also prepares you for the storms. When the pressure rises and the challenges stack up, many look for someone else to guide them through it. But if you've already learned to stand alone, You don't panic when there's no one ahead to follow. You've already walked paths where you had to figure out every step without guidance. That experience builds a quiet confidence, one that doesn't need to announce itself, but speaks through the way you keep moving forward even in uncertainty. People sense that steadiness, and when the time comes for you to lead others, they trust you because they know you've been tested alone. There's also something about the vision you build in solitude that can't be replicated in a crowd. When you're constantly surrounded by others, their voices, no matter how well-intentioned, can sway your direction. Alone, you have the space to see your destination clearly without distraction. You can plan your steps without adjusting them to please someone else. You can work at your own pace without the pressure to match the speed of those around you. That independence allows you to develop a vision that's fully yours, one you believe in so deeply that you can guide others toward it without hesitation. Standing alone is also a test of resilience. There will be times when loneliness creeps in, when you question if the effort is worth it, when the weight feels heavier than you thought you could bear. But every time you push through those moments, every time you keep standing when it would be easier to give up, you're building a foundation of mental toughness that cannot be shaken easily. That toughness is what sets apart those who crumble under pressure from those who rise to meet it. And perhaps most importantly, leading yourself in solitude teaches you empathy for those you'll lead in the future. Because you know what it feels like to face challenges with no one else to lean on, you lead with a deeper understanding of what others need when they feel the same way. You become the kind of leader who doesn't just give orders but gives strength, who doesn't just direct but inspires. The lessons you learn when you're the only one carrying the weight become the tools you use to help others carry theirs.